Leading the Catholic Church is a mission few can fully comprehend. It is not merely about managing an institution with over 1 billion followers. It involves sustaining a 2,000-year tradition, guiding souls toward eternity, and facing the storms of a constantly changing world. The Pope, as the successor of St. Peter, bears the responsibility of being a beacon of hope, a shepherd who keeps the flock united until death calls him to eternal rest. But what happens when this shepherd falters? When the body weakens and the light guiding the Church begins to flicker in the shadows? Today, the Vatican faces a mystery that shakes its foundations. Pope Francis, the leader who transformed the Church with his simplicity and courage, may be in the final chapters of his papacy. An 88-year-old man walks through the marble corridors of the Vatican, the weight of the years visible in every slow step. His breath is heavy. His eyes reflect the weariness of a life dedicated to a cause greater than himself. In recent months, the signs have been undeniable. Recurring hospitalizations, canceled papal agendas, and abdominal surgery that left deep scars. Photos of the pontiff in a wheelchair have circulated in the global press, a stark contrast to the energy he displayed when he assumed the papacy in 2013. In Rome, rumors have spread like wildfire through the squares. He can't take it anymore. Beyond the sacred walls, the faithful pray in silence, while others speculate aloud. Within the Vatican, however, the air is filled with tense quietude, a quietude that conceals preparations, fears, and a question no one dares to ignore. What comes next? The Church has faced such uncertainties before. In 2013, Pope Benedict XVI, then 85 years old, resigned from the papacy, a rare event in centuries of Catholic history. He claimed that his frail health prevented him from fulfilling the divine call with the necessary vigor. It was a moment that shattered the image of an eternal papacy, but also paved a path that others might follow. Now, Francis, who has already faced pneumonia and chronic lung issues, seems to be on a similar precipice. Unlike Benedict, he is a reformer, a pope who opened the Church's doors to dialogue with the modern world, challenged old customs, and attracted both applause and fierce criticism. His departure, whether through natural causes or an unexpected resignation, would not merely be a transfer of power. It would herald a storm that could reshape the destiny of the Catholic faith for future generations. As Francis struggles to hold the helm, signs of an imminent conclusion have emerged in the Vatican's backstage. The Swiss Guard, which has protected pontiffs for centuries, has been seen rehearsing funeral ceremonies, a ritual that does not go unnoticed in Rome. In the corridors of the Curia, cardinals exchange glances heavy with tension, aware that the next step will define the Church's course. Francis still breathes, still speaks, but his voice is weaker, his movements slower. And there is a secret few know. Shortly after his election, he wrote a letter of resignation, a document kept in case his health fails. "If my condition allows, I will continue to lead the Church," he wrote. "But if I fail, I will leave the command in God's hands." Is that day approaching? The Church stands on the brink of an abyss, and the world watches, hearts in hand, awaiting what is to come. The leadership of the Catholic Church constitutes one of the highest responsibilities entrusted to a human being. It is not just about governing a community of over 1 billion faithful. It involves preserving a spiritual heritage that spans 2 millennia, guiding souls towards safety, and facing the challenges of a world in constant transformation. The Pope, as the successor of St. Peter, is called to exercise this office with absolute dedication, being the guide of the flock until divine circumstances determine the end of his earthly mission. However, when the health of this leader weakens and his ability to fulfill this call is questioned, the Church finds itself at a crossroads that demands deep reflection. Today, Pope Francis, who assumed the papacy in 2013, faces a situation that raises serious questions about the continuity of his governance and the fate of the Catholic faith. At 88 years old, Francis is experiencing a clear physical decline. In recent months, reports have been consistent. Recurring hospitalizations, disruptions in his official agenda, and major abdominal surgery that compromised his full recovery. His mobility is reduced, and he relies on a wheelchair to move around, an image that contrasts with the vitality he displayed at the beginning of his papacy. In Rome, Conversations among the faithful and external observers reflect unease. Beyond the Vatican walls, prayers intensify while speculations about his future grow. Within the Holy See, silence prevails, but it is a silence that carries weight, a sign that the Church is preparing for a moment of transition that cannot be ignored. The pressing question is clear: how much longer can Francis sustain his leadership under such conditions? This scenario is not unprecedented in the Church's history. On February 10, 2013, Pope Benedict XVI announced his resignation, a decision that broke with centuries of tradition and surprised the world. At 85 years old, he acknowledged that his debilitated health prevented him from exercising the Petrine ministry with the necessary strength. This precedent proved that the papacy is not an unshakable burden unto death, but a service that can be concluded by a conscious choice for the greater good of the Church. Francis, who has already faced pneumonia, chronic lung complications, and the natural effects of advanced age, seems to face a similar dilemma. Unlike Benedict, however, his papacy is marked by a transformative vision. He sought to bring the Church closer to the marginalized, promote dialogue with other cultures and religions, and challenge entrenched internal structures, actions that garnered fervent support and equally intense opposition. His eventual departure, whether by resignation or death, would not merely end a governance, but mark the beginning of a chapter that could redefine the course of the Catholic Church. As Francis persists in his duties, signs of preparation are emerging at the heart of the Vatican. The Swiss Guard, responsible for the pontiff's protection, has been making efforts that suggest the proximity of a funeral ceremony, a practice reflecting the gravity of the moment. In the Roman Curia, cardinals are closely monitoring the situation, aware that the next step will have profound implications. Despite his weakened state, Francis continues to perform his role, but his voice is losing strength, and his movements reveal the limits of the human body. A significant detail is worth noting. Shortly after his election, he wrote a letter of resignation, a document kept secret in which he stated his willingness to step down if his health incapacitated him. "As long as my condition allows, I will remain at the head of the Church," he declared. "But if necessary, I will entrust this mission to God's hands." Is this critical moment approaching? The Church is on the verge of an imminent transition, and the world awaits in respectful silence the unfolding of this historic event.